Hi, I'm Darin Burns, and I want to welcome you again to another show, 61 Never Forgotten podcast, which is about my life and the ups and downs and trials that I've gone through over the last 50 plus years of my life. You can get a copy of my book at Chapters in Canada or Indigo or Amazon or anywhere you can look it up online, 61 Never Forgotten. The idea of the book is don't have society tell you who you are, you tell society who the fuck you're going to be. And today I've got my guest on with me, Damian James, and Damian is going to be going through the book with me and indulging in, and he's got a few questions to go through. So I'm going to introduce Damian to the show. Welcome on again.
Thank you, Darin. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah. Well, it's been a few weeks since we've been on. I'm a little rusty today, so let's get this thing going here. So how's Thanksgiving? Let's get that out of the way.
Thanksgiving was amazing. Thanks for asking. I've had a lot of time to go through the book, and I've got a lot of questions today. I think a lot of people that are going to watch this are going to get really interested in the stuff we're going to talk about, because I think that from the outside looking in, people just don't know who you are, and I really didn't. We've had a lot of conversations, and I think the world needs to know who Darin Burns is, and they need to know your deepest, darkest, because there's a lot to learn from what you've been through.
Yeah. No, it's been a interesting journey, as I tell people. It's got a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but anyhow, yeah. So fire away on some of your questions. Let's go.
Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask you, Darin, and I'm going to give you the cheat code, because I'm going to ask you it 2 minutes before we end the show. And the question I have to ask you first is, are you okay?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. When I was going through the process on everything, I said to myself that, I said it about 5 years ago, I said, my 61st year is going to be a great year. And so far, I've unleashed a lot of the baggage and stuff like that, and getting a lot of my stuff out of the way and finishing my football career and honoring Bruce. And, the pieces are starting to click. I've got an amazing relationship now. I've got, everything is going good. So like I always tell people, don't feel sorry for me. I'm in a good spot today.
Okay. The most overwhelming question that echoes in my head as I think about you and the stuff I've read is the drugs. Mm-hmm. You got injured, right? You got on painkillers to deal with that pain of being injured. But the question I have for you, and I think a lot of men and women who watch this show are going to want to know the same thing, is because of all the trauma you had in your life, and that's probably a whole completely different show, right? I mean, we could do 20 shows about what you've been through, all the different segments, the abuse, the trauma, homelessness, football, injuries, love life, divorce, kids, all the stuff we could do a different show every single time on all those different things. But what I want to ask you is, with the drug use, was there a time where you knew you weren't in physical pain and the drugs were helping you with the emotional, mental pain?
Yeah, starting back in the 80s, we partied and stuff like that, so we did a bit of blow and drinking beers and hanging out and stuff like that, letting off steam. And I never really thought of my past and stuff like that. I was kind of on that joyride of, making money, having fun, and, life is going to be like this forever. I started with Percocets in the late 90s, because I had 5 knee operations face. I've broken pretty much every bone in both my hands, shoulder injuries, like you name it, I've done it, broken ribs. I've had over 20 concussions in my life. And, it started with going to see a doctor and getting 30 Percocets, and it was like, take one a day, one a day in the morning or whatever to kind of get you through the morning and get your body moving. Because as it's like a car needs to warm up, so does the body, but you go through a lot of pain. So, I was taking that one a day, and the next thing you know, it was 2 a day, and then it was 3 a day, and then it was 4 a day. And, I was at 12 a day, and, I was getting prescribed by a doctor. So, I didn't feel any pain. I remember even playing football. I was popping them on the field. I remember one time having it in my glove with plastic. I took the plastic off and I popped the pill during a timeout. So,
So hold on. During a football game, an actual CFL game, you were doing the Brett Favre. You were taking painkillers during the game.
CFL at that time, it was the that would have been the Maritime Football League out in Atlantic Canada. So that would have been in 2009,
Wow.
2010. Yeah. I was like literally had my pills at the bench, and if I wanted one, I'd wrap it in plastic, slide it in my glove, and, the water boy would come out, I'd take that, pop it, and, away I went. But I played with pain and stuff like that. But I think that I don't know who ever created that drug, but it's highly addictive. It can catch you. You don't realize it. One day you just wake up and go, what the, it starts to control you. And I don't like anyone ever trying to control me. So I've been fortunate enough. When I was younger, I smoked cigarettes. I quit. I did coke. I quit. I was able to always stop what I wanted to do. And, if I committed myself to doing something, I was always good. So I have a very strong mind in doing that. But this was a different cat. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. It kind of it just owns you. So it killed the pain, because I have a lot of pain, from growing up, and I've had strong walls in keeping them in check and not having to deal with them.
You're talking about emotional pain, right?
Yeah, the emotional side of things. Like just not being able to keep a relationship together, not being trying to be a good parent and seem to be failing this. I've got a grade 9 education. You go through all things. I thought of suicide when I was younger. I wanted Christmas when I was 19. I was ready to kill myself. I had a gun loaded in my apartment. So, there's some dark times in my life going forward. So these pills, they kind of numbed all that soreness and hurt, and it kind of makes you feel almost like Superman with no feelings. So you start doing that. So, I was taking 12 a day. And, it was taking its toll on me. I wasn't like, I got to go and rob a store or anything like that. I was under total control because my doctors, they were giving them to me. I didn't have to go. They're costing me like $30 a month on the prescription plan, right? So it wasn't like, I was running around looking for a fix. If I needed more, my doctors would just up it. If I needed that. But it came a time when my son started to play football, and he was living in BC. And he wanted to play ball. And, I kind of looked at myself in the mirror one morning and I said, you're not a good fucking role model. Like this, what you're doing right now is, you're going to end up teaching your son all the wrong things. So for me, it was the love of my son that got me to quit.
So at what point did you go from, at what point did you personally realize that you no longer needed the drugs, but you wanted them?
Oh gosh. Probably 2006, 7. So
2006, 7. And when did you walk away from them?
2011.
So it took you 4 years to get off the addiction path.
5 years. I never really got off the addiction path. I just kept popping them and just going on it. And it was just like the one day I just looked at myself and I said, what the hell? So my wife at the time, I hate calling her that, but anyhow, that's another story. I said, I'm going to get off these pills. So it was a Friday evening and I locked myself in our bedroom. We had a master bathroom there and stuff. And I said, just make sure I have some water and stuff like that. I locked myself in the room. And I didn't take them for 3 days. And let me tell you, that was the leg shaking, the sweating, the diarrhea, the fevers, the sweat, the this and that, everything you can imagine going through it. But on Monday, I came out of it and I never touched it again. So it's been 15 years, almost 15 years since I did that, 14 years. It was one of the hardest things. It was kind of funny. The Tuesday after I quit taking them, because I was at the end of my 30-day, my doctor called me and said my prescription's ready to pick up to get renewed. And I told my doctor, I said, I don't need it. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I quit. He says, well, how'd you do that? I said, I just locked myself in a room and I stopped taking it. And he kind of like was saying, well, that's good. But at the same time, he says, you're a fucking idiot because you could have died.
Could have died.
Yeah. But I wasn't living anyhow before that. So, for me, I did it, and I said to them, well, I'm still here, I'm there. So, and I think that might have been I don't want to get spiritual on it because I have a hard time believing in God and everything that's happened to me, but it's like almost like a spiritual test. You've gotten through 3-4 days of not being on them, and then the dealer's at your door, and saying, I got more for you. And
Yeah.
I refused it. So, it was one of the most enjoyable times being on them. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But it was probably one of the hardest things next to doing Bruce's eulogy, I would probably say that would be probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life.
So let's talk about two parallels right now. So 3 days after you quit, you're at that point, you're sober, right?
Yeah.
At that time, I don't know if you can recall, I'm assuming you can because you probably had like this awakening again. At that time, and again, this is because your life is so amazing, you're such a fascinating individual. So we got the trauma from your life. You were sexually abused. You were injured. You've been injured. You chased football. You've been homeless. You've been through a multitude of men's homes, all the abductions, all the stuff you've been through. 3 days after you get sober, do you wake up anytime after those 3 days and go, oh my God, all this stuff from my life that I've been pushing down is now hitting me in the face? Am I in a fight with my past?
Yeah, I had some hard times dealing with it, but again, like my psychologist says, I'm really strong mind, so I was able to suppress things and kind of bury things and, working forward. So like I was not, when you think about it, I was not really a junkie in a sense that, I wasn't functioning. I had my business, I had this, I had that. So I've been able to, I was able to function. I owned a home, I had my car, I had this and that. I was able to do all. So I didn't really lose all that. I think actually for me, I felt more liberated than anything. Because again, I don't like people. I don't like being controlled. So that's been a problem with me, trying to make pro football and stuff like that. Sometimes you get coaches. Coaches always look at football players as soldiers and, they'll say, run through this. And I'll be like, you don't need to run through this. I can go this way and around and get the same result. So I'm the kind of a person that doesn't like to be told what to do. People start telling me what to do. I tend to go the opposite way, in a lot of cases. So, the pills were, taking control of me. So for me, it was easy to turn and go the other way, where I had my issues where my past really affected me. And, you start thinking about how to deal. It was when I had my car accident in March of 2022, where I was almost killed. I was with my buddy and we were driving the car and we rolled the car 8 times down the highway. We were traveling back from Hamilton to Atlantic Canada. I drove through Ontario. He drove across Quebec. And when we got to the New Brunswick border, it's like, I'll take over again and continue. So it was like 3:20 in the morning. And I looked over at my friend Gabe. He's my teammate right beside me. I said, Gabe, I'll take over next exit. I reached down, started doing up my socks, and he passed out. And we hit a snowbank and we tumbled all the way down. So I had a severe concussion where blood was out of my ear and the airbag literally exploded 2 inches from my brain. So now I'm having to wear glasses sometimes, especially when I'm driving, because I see 2 lines and stuff like that. But what it did it took all of my fucking walls down, like everything. So I became more of an emotional bitch, if you will. I was really,
vulnerable.
Yes, extremely. Right? And so everything, the rape of when I was 5, for when I was a kid there, the rape that went on at the Salvation Army, the beatings my father gave me, being abandoned, being shipped around, being passed around, going to 27, all these things just hit me at one time. And I think, again, it was a test. I didn't go to drugs. I wrote a book and got it out of me that way, So for me, that was another point of showing that I can control myself and control these demons, so I don't want to get through it. But, getting back to your original question on it, the drugs, they made me feel like you take one of those, you felt good, when it was going down, you're kind of like this and you're twitching, looking for another shot. Right. So, I felt like Superman. I could do anything I wanted, and I made some really stupid financial decisions while I was on that stuff. Like one time I was at, I went with my friend with his motorhome to a Canadian motorhome show, and I ended up coming home with a $400,000 motorhome.
Wow.
And I used it maybe 5 times and sold it and lost $250,000.
Wow.
I went out and I bought back in 2004, I bought a $180,000 brand new 750i BMW. Bought my wife a BMW while I was sitting on the runway of an airplane, called the dealership and told them to deliver a car. That's the kind of shit that I was doing,
Wow.
while I was on those things.
Delusional.
Yeah.
Delusional.
Yeah. And, when you get back to, 61 now and you sit back and you think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you've blown over the years, it's a kick in the balls. So, I'm fortunate that, I'm back on my feet again and things are going the right way, but it's, man, I tell you, the lessons, I should write a book on what not to do and then have it as a bestseller for people to follow up on. And because, we always think that, like, look at how many pro athletes go bankrupt and stuff like that because they think that they're going to be making $10 million a year for the rest of their life. They don't plan on things. I admire a guy like J.J. Watt who, made all that money as a defensive lineman and shows up in a pickup truck. Doesn't flamboyant, keeps it together and stuff like that. That's not me. But I wish I was that back then,
So let's talk about Bruce. Bruce saved your life.
Yes.
And man, it's an emotional story when you know the full circle of you and Bruce and everything. And again, like I said, you have this amazing life, and Bruce could be like 3 episodes, right? But what I want to ask is, because you have such an emotional tie to Bruce, and he was such an amazing person that like guided you in your life during that time of drug abuse, because you knew it was abuse and you knew it was wrong. Were you ever thinking like, Bruce would be so mad at me right now?
Yeah, I never told Bruce about my pills until 2011, just before I quit. I was doing a football camp in St. John, New Brunswick, and I brought my teammates from the Hamilton Ticats, the 86 team, and we went to do a benefit to help underprivileged kids play football. So I had the Ticats involved, at the CFL, had all these things, and we put together a camp, and my son flew up from BC is actually that, and he got, his roommate was the Grey Cup. He got to keep the Grey Cup trophy in his hotel room with him for the whole week because we had the Grey Cup there and stuff like that. And that's when I told Bruce what I was going through. And I think I had my son down. I had Bruce. That would have been in April of 2011. And I quit in May of 2011. I think once I told Bruce, and I had that look of Bruce's look on his face, like, he wasn't mad, he was disappointed. Disappointed that I didn't share that with him. And that goes to show you how well you can hide shit. Like, you just don't know who's addicted or who's on what, because I never looked at myself as a junkie on the street, like a guy on this passed out or whatever. I mean, I was going to a doctor.
Exactly. You were justifying it. You're justifying it because you're getting it from a doctor, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the insurance companies were paying for it. So, it cost me $30 every month to refill. I mean, those pills were selling like $40 on the street per pill, and I was getting 360 pills a month. I could have kept that prescription going and sold all those if I really wanted to make some money. But the thing is that, somebody did mention that to me. Man, we should have given, I would have done. I said, I don't wish that on anybody. Maybe an X or two, but as far as the person off it's a horrible addiction to be on.
So I know that, we talked about, you had a relationship, you were married, and you have 2 amazing kids that's involved in your life. You have an amazing son. He was the impetus to get you off of drugs.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, so obviously you were using during your relationship, right? Do you feel like
for half the relationship, yes.
So that is front loaded then. So do you feel like, and obviously you don't really know because you were high, but do you feel like your drug use destroyed your relationship?
I don't know if it destroyed it because, there's 2 factors to look at it. I was dealing with the emotional pain of growing up. and, you know, I could have been a different way, more angry, where this kind of made me more smooth and quiet. So, you know, like, no, I don't think it affected it in that way. We always, as we get older, like I always made a joke with my friends. They would always say, man, let's go to the strip club. And I go, why? And they go, well, go look at the young girls. And I'm sitting there going, well, I got my wife. She's 16 years younger than me. She's beautiful at home. Why would I go to, they're all saying, fuck you, Burnsy. Yeah, why my wife's so bad. They're just a guy thing, right? But, I think that, you know, in my relationship with Jennifer she was younger. She loved men. I think she loved a lot of men. I caught her having an affair, the day before she told me she loved me. I mean, it's been a long thing. I mean, I can go through it where, you know, like she left in October of 2020. She left in October. She left in August of 2020. And in October of 2020, she was texting me and bothering me. And I said, just leave me alone. I'm seeing someone. That was at 10 o'clock in the morning. And by, 2 o'clock, there's a program here where women can go and file a complaint saying they've been thrown out of the home, and, you know, they come in and they kick the guy out and they put her in and they do all the stuff. So anyhow, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so 3 hours after I sent that text message, I get a sheriff's department, and on there's a letter statement she had that she did 2 hours earlier. So because I saw the time, and in there, our daughter was at home. She was home from school that day. She came down the stairs and she grabbed the sheet. She started reading it. She's like, what the fucking that bitch? She called her mother a bitch. In there, she said that she was thrown out 90 days earlier. She said that I was violent and that I did drugs. I was violent, yeah. And last time I got into a fight was 1999. My drug use was in the 80s and early 2000s. And she said she was thrown out that morning while she was out for 90 days. So when we had 2 weeks later, I had to go to in front of a judge. And by the way, I was battling cancer then too. I just had a treatment for my prostate and I was at home, my leg up just resting. And, I got the knock on the door and I told the sheriff I'm going to go. But then when our daughter came down and, you know, basically backed up what I was saying, and it's her daughter. And then I showed the text message I sent to her. The judge said, it's women like you to give the program a bad name. Mr. Burns, you can go back in, and she could. So anyhow, that went on. So that I got blamed on that. And then, 4 months later, she had this thing where she said, I want to get my own apartment. I want to live alone. I thought, okay, she's younger. She's never experienced that. She wants to get a job, have her own apartment, do whatever. We'll go through marriage counseling, kind of work on things. So we were doing that. And, things started to get weird where, if I had had sex with her, I have to wear a condom. Didn't really click with me on all that kind of stuff. And ends up that she was banging somebody else. So I guess she didn't want two DNAs in her at the same time. So she was lying to the other guy saying that she was single, but lying to me and doing this. So I'm wearing the condom. This other guy, I guess, is not. I'm just assuming. And this was going on. And I sent her, I was talking to her the night before, and she said, oh, I love you. Keep doing the work. She was playing me for money. At 7 o'clock in the morning, I found out because I had somebody tail her to find out what was going on because I was getting suspicious. And I caught her at a guy's house at 7 a.m. And, she's been over there. So, she was just trying to play me for money about the house and this and that. So she went with this guy because he drove a Mercedes and had a little business and he had a house. Well, his dad bought him the Mercedes and he's a cook, and the house that he was living in was with his ex-wife who's gone, and when they had to sell everything and they're renting somewhere now. So at the end of the day, she didn't get the rich guy, she got a working guy, which is kind of ironic. But then
she didn't get Mr. Future, she got Mr. Fun.
Yeah, well, not even fun. He looks like an idiot, but anyhow, that's her life to go on. But at the end of the day, the house had sold. Oh, I saw that guy, the boyfriend, because he flipped a bird at me behind the police back when I caught them because they were scared, so they called the police. I just sat in my car and laughed. The police came over and said, you have to go. And I said, okay, fine. And the guy, when the police were walking to this place, he flipped the bird. So I saw him 2 months later in a parking lot at a mall. I think God has some ways of making things happen. So I pulled along the side of him and I called him a piece of shit. And I said, you like sleeping with married women? I said, you're so fucking ugly. If I looked like you, I'd kill myself. And I said, you could have the $3 whore. And then I turned, I said to him, if you ever flip a bird at me again, I'll rip off both your fucking arms and beat you to death with them. Well, I got charged with a death threat. So I had to deal with that. And then, after that, the ex was texting me all the time about the house and trying to sell the home and all stuff, because I guess she had lied to him and she was lying to me, so she was playing both sides. But now that I knew that she was having it, now she's changing her story to go with him. I sent a text message to her to say the house has been sold. I sold it just to get rid of all the bills. I didn't even bother, like it was a quick sale. There was no profit left over. There could have been, but I just blew it out because I didn't want it. And I sent a text message to pick up her belongings. They came and got the belongings, and then she had me charged with a breach because I communicated with her by texting her to pick up her belongings. But meanwhile, she can text me for 236 times. I text her to say, pick up your belongings. Now I'm under a breach. So I got picked up again by the police, and, it's been a horror show. I had to go in front of a judge, and I told the judge I had zero interest in her. I was moving on with my life, and the fact I was getting a divorce in the Dominican Republic because we were married there. And the judge pissed me off on a comment. She's basically called me a liar. So I told the judge to go fuck herself. And I got denied bail and had to sit there until plead guilty on the threats to the boyfriend and the breach, and get out and get my life going again. But meanwhile, I was in there because there was no money. And I guess she had been telling him that she wasn't with me and she was lying to him, I guess. So she came up with the idea of pressing charges against me for sexual assault for 20 years, that I controlled the money. Because I controlled the money, she was fearful that she would be thrown out of the home if she didn't have sex with me. Well, we have letters and we've got her friends and we've got a recorded conversation. So I got the charge laid against me, which is what they have to do. And then the Crown Attorney withdrew the charges the day before the court thing because it never happened like that. So it was a nasty divorce, and trust me, if there's a time to get back on drugs and drinking, that would have been the time. But,
So I know we're going to run out of time, so I want to ask you one thing, because I want you to be able to leave everybody watching this with this. So you are at Darin Burns, Darin Burns, Burns. You're on Instagram, you're on TikTok now, you're on YouTube and Facebook. Yep. You're viral. You're getting like millions of views on all your videos because you're still playing football.
Yeah. Well, now I've retired. Now I've finished this.
So you retired from that, but all your videos were pretty current. I mean, last year you playing football still. Yeah.
This past August I stopped playing.
So you got back up. I mean, you're a warrior. You're a champion. Yep. Cancer, abduction, losing all your money. You rebuilt. Yep. Drugs. You've done it, right?
Yep.
So Darin, if you're going to tell anybody in the world that was going through something real bad, and they came to you and said, "Man, I can't get up, Darin. Give me some juice. Give me some fire. Give me some smoke." What would you tell them? What would be your piece of advice to get back up?
You're never a loser as long as you keep trying. The only thing I can tell you about is if you stop trying, you are a loser, because that is what losers do. They give up. You've just got to work through it. If there's a will, you've got a heartbeat. You just got to stay focused. The difference between success and failure is attitude and determination, and don't let people tell you, like I said at the beginning of the show, don't let society tell who you are. You tell society who the fuck you want to be. And it's true, like I've been kicked down. I've done all that stuff, but you rise up and you keep pursuing till you achieve your goal. As long as you never give up, there's always a chance you can succeed. The moment you give up, there is no chance of succeeding. I was in a dark spot. I met a beautiful woman. I've got a great situation now. My lawyers have been working hard on getting me going on my back on my feet. I've dealt with my Salvation Army issues. I've dealt with my car insurance issues that I had from the accident, and I'm in a great position now to move forward with my life and have the things in life that I deserve. And like I say, I've had a hard 60 years of life, but the thing that I take from it is that I'm due to have some peace in my life. And that's what I'm working towards now. And I want to help other people out through the podcast. Andre the Beast has just been great giving me this platform. So, I want to give a shout out to my producer for giving me this iambeaststudios, giving me iambeast radio, platform to get things out. I'm on as a Kino or FM or something like that. I'm on Apple. I'm on all the different podcast things. And like you said, my Instagram is DarinJ61. People can reach out to me. I love hearing people's stories and stuff, but it's rewarding, and, I've been truly blessed in so many ways. And, some people are blessed with money and they kind of hoard it all to themselves. And, when you've got a position where you've got lots of money, you've been blessed in certain ways, it's our duty to help other people, pass it along and up people up. I'm not filthy rich. I'm doing fine today, but my message and what I try to do to people is try to lift people up. It's not financial, but it's emotional, mental support and guidance. And that's what I'm trying to do now with my program here. To get people like you involved and get people out there to get this message, because, let's face it, both sexes get, had a bad rap, but lately, men have been taking a lot of things. We tend not to, we tend to keep, I'm a man, so I can't be emotional. I'm a man, I can't show this. I'm a man, I can't show that. It's hard, and trying to be a man and not being able to show the emotions and doing that, destroys you. Like I've been destroyed so many times in my life by trying to put a facade on that I'm Superman, I'm above all that. But, and deep down inside, it's destroyed me. And, but, I've got good people around me that have given me love and support. And now I'm going to give love and support back out to everybody else. And, if it wasn't for people like Bruce who, gave their love, first person ever showed me unconditional love was a black guy from Texas. And, I was 14 years old, and he was my brother and my father figure until the day he died. And I promised him that I would keep his legacy alive and spread his story and do things to help other people. And that's what I continue to do. I've had I've not been the greatest of fathers in a sense, not in that way, but just in emotionally and just being disconnected, because I don't know how to operate in that way. Being a husband, I got my ups and downs with that, but I've got my doc who's on the show all the time. He's been working with me every week. People like you talking about this, every day, you try to make yourself better, and just having a great partner with you that makes you better. And that's the important things that you need. You need that love, that support, and and just keep on pushing. Like you never fail as long as you keep trying. You fail, you quit, that's when you're a loser.
Well, Darin, it's been a pleasure just being on for the second week. Been an honor.
We're going to have you on more on a regular basis, and we're going to talk about the.
I'm super proud of you, brother.
Thank you. You're walking too, and you know exactly what I'm going through. So
you're a walking hero, and I would say you're an amazing man. Everything I read about you, everything you've come back from. So, man, you're an inspiration, and I think you're just going to continue to inspire people. And people need to get on social media. They need to look up, Darin Burns 61. They need to read the book 61 Never Forgotten. They need to be watching this show, because they're going to learn a lot about not just surviving, but winning again. And that's what your story's about. It's about winning against all odds. And I'm super proud just to be involved with you.
Lots of love. Thank you. So this has been a weird sort of a segment where I'm the host, but I pass it on to my guest, and my guest hosts me for today's show. And it's a little bit of a curveball for Andre in the studio to handle this. But again, I want to thank Andre. I want to thank all the listeners. And again, you can catch me on podcast stations. I'm on Apple and Google, YouTube, the FM station Zeno FM. You can catch me on all that stuff, or even tune into Andre the Beast networks, and you can find me on there. I want to thank all my listeners for coming in. And again, don't let society tell you who you are. You tell society who the fuck you're going to be. I'm Darin Burns, and I'm out.